I'm Dr. Orion Taraban, and this is Psych Hacks, Better Living Through Psychology. And the topic of today's short talk is women are a roll of the dice. Okay, men, this episode is for you. As I've previously discussed, dating is an extended hiring process in which you, the man, are the employer, because you, the man, are in a position to extend an offer to the woman and not the other way around. This means that dating is really an opportunity to surreptitiously vet a woman for the relationship position of your choosing. However, for better or for worse, your capacity to do this will be compromised by the fact that you will likely be attracted to the woman you are vetting. And attraction does all kinds of things to your perception. The more you are attracted, the more distorted your perception becomes. This is why I generally recommend that men do not make any kind of long-term, life-changing commitments to a woman for at least 12 months. This gives the couple time to pass through the crisis of disillusionment, in which the weight of reality shatters the projected fantasy on which the attraction to this point was fundamentally based. So there is a 12-month minimum due diligence process within the overall hiring process that is courtship, in which men vet women for long-term relationships. Got it? That said, even if you do all this, even if you follow all this advice and you, quote, do everything right, relationships ultimately remain a roll of the dice. You absolutely don't know, and you can't know what you're going to get in the long term. A woman who is great for the first 12 months of dating might be very different 12 years down the road. In fact, the most likely outcome is that you both will be very different. Your lives will be very different. What you prioritize will be very different. And what you want within those priorities will be very different. On some level, it's quite strange that we expect the same person to meet these evolving needs and wants and priorities even decades later. But that's apparently still how we operate as a culture. The upshot is that no matter how well you vet a woman, no matter how much due diligence you perform, you will ultimately be rolling the dice with respect to that particular relationship. There's no way around it. So what you have to understand is that all relationships with women are a form of gambling. You can learn the rules and do your research, but you still have to roll the dice. And this means that on some level, you should approach women like you approach gambling. And the first unbreakable rule of gambling is that you never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, ever gamble with more than you can afford to lose. This is the fundamental rule of gambling. All professional gamblers have their kitty, the money they play with, and they have the money they need to live and support their lifestyles. The two must remain separate and distinct. When a gambler starts to play with the money he needs to live is precisely the moment he crosses over into a gambling addiction. And that doesn't lead anywhere good. Professional gamblers can continue to play precisely because they keep their kitty separate from the money they need to live. That way, they can stay afloat even if they get completely cleaned out at the tables. This is really important to remember because whether we like it or not, all relationships end. However, in our culture, relationships don't really end equally. Many years ago, a mentor of mine was consoling me after a heartbreak. He told me, Orion, a woman is like a tsunami. When she leaves, she takes everything with her. I can't remember if I laughed or not because it might still have been a little too close to home, but the man had a point. Women are generally the ones to leave. They disproportionately initiate breakups and divorces. And when they leave, they can take a lot with them. And this means, like a responsible gambler, you can't ever give them more than you can afford to lose. Now, before I go any further, if you're liking what you're hearing, please consider sending this episode to someone who might benefit from its message, because it's word of mouth referrals like this that really help to make the channel grow. You can also hit the thanks button and tip me in proportion to the value you feel you've derived from this episode. I'm also proud to announce that my book, The Value of Others, is now available for pre-sale on Amazon. I'm also writing original content for my free newsletter every week. If you'd like to sign up, you can do so through my website. Finally, please fill out an inquiry form on my website if you're interested in having a paid consultation. Links to everything in the description below. Okay, let's get back to it. Now, I don't just mean this from the perspective of resources, though that is certainly important. If you're concerned about your resources, then just don't sign the marriage contract. And if you absolutely must for some reason, then make sure you get a strong negotiated prenup before you do, no exceptions. But I also mean this from the perspective of your emotional investment. It's important to protect your heart. If you go all in emotionally, then you're going to be completely devastated when that relationship ends. And trust me, you don't have unlimited emotional resources. It's very difficult, if not functionally impossible, to go all in emotionally more than a few times in your life. So the first rule of gambling makes sense. Never play with more than you can afford to lose. That said, some people love to resist this advice. They balk, "Oh, Orion, what's the point of love if you hold back? Love is all about going all in. Otherwise, why even bother? It's just not worth it, and I wouldn't settle for anything less anyway." This is the most common rebuttal I hear to this fundamental rule. And in my experience, the reason behind this rebuttal differs depending on the gender of the rebuttee. Allow me to explain. Now, if I hear this objection from a woman that she wants all in or nothing, well, I just sort of chuckle to myself, because that's kind of like the casino insisting that I raise my bet. And it's like, no shit, the casino would want me to do that. After all, the house always wins, doesn't it? Now, casinos can set like minimum standard bets at their tables. However, if a casino were to insist that players gamble with their entire holding in order to play, well, they probably wouldn't have a lot of customers. And those they did receive, in all likelihood, wouldn't be very happy customers for very long. This objection serves the house's best interests, not its customers. So just smile and move on. However, sometimes this objection comes from men. When the objection comes from a man that he wants all in or nothing, it's somewhat more puzzling, but I'll explain where it's coming from. These men are really into the emotional component of their relationships. Like I've said, most people, men and women, most people want to be the adorer in their relationships because it's the adorer who gets to feel the feelings. And the best feeling that adorers get to feel is the feeling of being with the one they love, which, when everything is going well, is one of the best feelings in the entire world. Relationships are like gambling in the sense that the higher the stakes, the more you're going to feel. You can play it safe and just bet with nickels, but you probably won't feel anything one way or the other. You might not ever lose your shirt, but you also won't ever really get ahead, so why bother playing? The men who insist on going all in don't do so because they hope to win big. They might, temporarily, but this is the less likely outcome, and the house always wins in the end anyway. They insist on going all in because they are chasing an emotional experience. They want to feel something. And just like a gambling addict, they might not be able to feel something unless the stakes are very, very high. So you should be cautious with respect to following these people's advice. To summarize, since women are a form of gambling, never invest more in a woman materially or emotionally than you can afford to lose. And understand that any objections to this advice are typically in the service of the casino and not its customers. What do you think? Does this fit with your own experience? Let me know in the comments below. As always, I appreciate your support and thank you for listening. And now, a word about Stellar. If you're interested in pursuing a master's degree or a doctorate, chances are good that you'll have to take the GRE. Now, before I became a psychologist, I was actually one of the world's top GRE test prep instructors. Over 20 years, I developed a unique and practical system for dismantling every aspect of this test, and I helped thousands of students achieve top percentile scores on the exam. Today, students can learn the same system I used to achieve my own perfect score with Stellar GRE, my online GRE self-study program. I personally wrote and designed every aspect of this course. Among other things, it includes a 500-page test prep manual, thousands of practice problems, and several full-length mock exams. Just like my episodes, Stellar is designed to give students the strategies and techniques they need to succeed as clearly and succinctly as possible. And the best part is, Stellar works. My students' average score improvements are higher than my competitors' score guarantees. So, create an account and start your free trial today at stellargre.com. Use the code PSYCH for 10% off any membership plan. The link is in the description.